Assalamu alaikum, and today I'm going to make a very simple but delicious minced beef sauce or ragu. You can use minced lamb if you prefer. So I'm just starting off by browning on high heat 600 grams of minced beef. It's quite relatively low in fat, the beef I bought. You can use lamb, I prefer lamb, but I got beef this time because supposedly it's a bit healthy. It's got less cholesterol and less fat in it. So I'm just starting off by browning the meat for just 10 minutes until the meat gets a nice brown color, and then I'll be adding up the other ingredients. This is going to be a lot simpler than the one I made before that had different vegetables and things in it. This one will be a lot simpler but still delicious. The first thing I'm going to add is these 2 onions. They're quite large, or medium to large. These 2 onions, I'm going to chop them up and put them into the mince. Okay, so I let the meat brown for around 10 minutes, the minced beef, and I added in the 2 onions that I chopped up roughly like this into medium-sized pieces. So I'm just going to mix this in with the browned beef. And while the beef is in here, I'll try to break it down a little bit with the spoon like this and mix it all together carefully. Okay, I'm just about to add a tablespoon of sunflower oil. You can add up to 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil or 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Actually, the more oil you add to tomato sauce, the better it tastes, but it's not healthy obviously. So add as much oil as you wish. So you want the onions to fry on high heat with the meat for at least 10 minutes until they become nice and softened and start turning a bit golden brown. Okay, while the onions are getting cooked, I'm going to blend in the blender these a can of tomatoes. It can be any kind of tomatoes in a can. Just put the whole can in the blender and blitz it on high for 3 minutes until it's smooth. Okay, so I have my tomato in the can. I've also added 6 cloves of garlic. Some of them are in the bottom. You can only see 3 here. The rest is in the bottom, but I've added 6 cloves of garlic, and we're going to blend it all together. I'm not going to add any water. We're going to add water later after blitzing it on the blender on high for 3 minutes. Okay, so the onions have been cooking for around 10 minutes and they're ready now. I'm just going to add the spices before adding the tomato sauce. The first thing to go in is a teaspoon of cumin powder. 1 teaspoon cumin powder. Next to go in is a tablespoon of paprika powder. 1 tablespoon paprika powder. Next to go in is a tablespoon of garlic powder. This is optional. Actually, most of the spices are optional in here. It's up to you what you like in your mince. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of onion powder. 1 tablespoon onion powder. I'm going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of mixed Italian herbs, 1/4 teaspoon only. Next to go in is 1/2 teaspoon of coriander powder to a teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon coriander powder, not too much. And this is 1 teaspoon, a bit more than a teaspoon, of, it's called Bahrain curry powder, but it's almost identical to Somali Xawaji. Or if you can't find either, you can just put in a teaspoon or less of curry powder. So I'm going to mix in the spices thoroughly and let them cook for a couple of minutes. Everything's still cooking on high. Well, I'm just going to turn the heat down now to medium-low, and mix in the spices thoroughly and let them cook for a few minutes before adding in the tomato sauce. Okay, so it's getting nice and fried, the spices. I'm also adding 2 chicken stock. You can add beef stock. I'm not going to add any salt because my chicken stock is salty. But if your chicken stock is not salty, or beef stock, you can add in about a teaspoon of salt, or salt to taste. however much salt you like in your food. But I think a teaspoon would be okay. Okay, next to go in is the canned tomato and the garlic that I pureed. You see how smooth it is? I pureed on high in the blender. I blitzed it on the blender for 2-3 minutes until it was smooth. So this is the garlic and the canned tomatoes. Now, to not waste any of the tomato sauce in the can, we always, my family, or most people I know, they add water to it. They add water to the can to make sure you don't waste any of the tomato. And they also add water to the blender. Make sure you don't waste any of the tomato in here either. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure I get all the tomato in the blender before adding it into here. So I've added about 2 cups of water. Now I know I should have used a larger pan, but I just like the way this frying pan cooks things. That's why I'm using it. But I think we'll just about get away with it. We're not going to add any more liquid. Now we're just going to let this simmer for 1 hour. 1 hour. I know that's a long time, but the longer you cook tomato sauce, the better it tastes. I'm just going to simmer it on low heat for 1 hour. If you wish, you can eat this literally like this. Like if you put it on high heat and heat this up for 10 minutes, it'll be ready. If you want a quick meal, which you can definitely do. But if you want the tomato sauce to taste its best, I recommend that you let it cook on low heat for 1 hour with a lid on after it starts boiling. Oh yes, I told you to add a canned tomato. Canned tomato is probably got 450 grams in it. And I'm also going to be adding in this tomato paste. This is 100 grams of tomato paste. I'm going to be adding that as well to give it a nice thick red color. Strong red color. So the 100 grams of tomato paste is literally my last ingredient. I'm just going to mix this in carefully. And then I'm just going to let this boil, simmer for 1 hour. Okay, so I've put my lid on. I'm just going to let this simmer for 1 hour. Just a reminder, I'll be mixing this every 15 minutes just to make sure that it doesn't get burnt or stuck to the bottom. Every 15 minutes, mix it. So you'll be mixing it like 3-4 times before it's ready. Okay, so my tomato sauce, minced beef sauce has been cooking for 1 hour and it's ready. It tastes delicious, it smells delicious, it looks delicious.